So I do think that what was laid out in Project 2025 and what the Trump administration is following is this plan of how to continually expand the limits of power, make it possible for people to see that in action and not be able to fight back, and then be able to use it again at these critical moments like the election.
Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal represents the 7th District of the state of Washington. She's on the House Judiciary, Foreign Affairs, Budget Committees, former chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Jayapal, Jayapal.house.gov is her website. Pramila Jayapal, Pramila Jayapal on Blue Sky. Representative Jayapal, it's great having you back with us. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm curious what's on the top of your mind today.
Oh, well, Tom, it's always great to be with you. Thank you for your incredible show. Look, I think there's so many things that are top of mind, but I'll just pick two. One is the shutdown and the slashing of SNAP, and the refusal by the administration to fund basic food for 42 million Americans. That deadline is November 1st. We are on the 30th day of the shutdown, and let me see, I think we're on the 41st day that Mike Johnson has refused to call us back into the House to negotiate an end to this and to make sure we save healthcare for Americans. The second is just immigration and the violent assault on American cities by Trump, by Kristi Noem, by Dan Bovino, who's the head of Customs and Border Protection. I was just in Chicago last week holding a shadow hearing on what's happening in Chicago. We had 19 members of Congress from all over the country. And I think the lawlessness and the mass deportation strategy, the kidnapping, and disappearing of people in our communities right before our very eyes is another thing that's top of mind for me. And I could go on with a long list, but I'm sure we'll cover them in your show.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. This morning on Joe Scarborough's show, Morning Joe on MSNBC, John Heilman, the reporter, I think he's with Axios, I'm not sure who he's with now, but laid out a scenario that was rather troubling. He argued, and these are my words, not his, but this is the essence of what he said. I think I'm clearly representing what he said, that Donald Trump and Stephen Miller are ordering extreme and brutal tactics from ICE and Customs and Border Patrol in the hope of provoking a violent response in one of these cities so that they can use that violent response to declare a national emergency and invoke the Insurrection Act so that they can use that, now that they're creating these rapid response forces among the National Guard in all 50 states, so that they can use that in 3 years to suspend the 2028 elections. And he said, John Heilman said that he has heard from several Democratic governors and members of Congress that that's actually a legitimate concern. That shocked me. I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it is absolutely a legitimate concern because, of course, these are things that were laid out in Project 2025. And if you look at just Chicago as an example, you have the head of Customs and Border Protection throwing a tear gas canister into a crowd of peaceful protesters against a judge's order that had previously been there at the time, saying you can't use tear gas in crowds of peaceful protesters. And so I do think that, and the judge actually brought Bovino in front of her. It's all being contested right now, but, essentially ordered him to report to her every day at 4 o'clock in the courtroom because she doesn't trust that he's following the orders. So I do think that what was laid out in Project 2025 and what the Trump administration is following is this plan of how to continually expand the limits of power, make it possible for people to see that in action and not be able to fight back, and then be able to use it again at these critical moments like the election.